Howdy. Today I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about complaining. And I seem to have chosen a funny time of year to start this series up because it is currently raining on and off, and there's a thunderstorm rolling in. So we'll see if I can do a good job here without complaining too much about the circumstances. I had an interesting conversation a week or two ago with somebody where they kind of challenged me as to why I wasn't acting on a situation that had an element of injustice to it, and why I wasn't complaining about it. And I had to really stop and think about my general approach to these sorts of problems, and I'll share it with you. So I donate blood. I think it's my civic duty. So that's a line I picked up from somebody's autobiography, actually. Can't credit me with that, but that's actually what got me donating blood. I read about it. I thought, yeah, okay, if it was their civic duty and they live in the same country as me, it's probably mine too. And every time I go, they ask me if I would like to donate plasma next time instead. And they ask sometimes in a less than friendly manner, rather being upfront about it. And I understand that product is what they need more than they need what I'm giving them, right? So in terms of your economics and your supply and demand, I understand that they want to increase that supply. And I'm AB positive, which isn't that great for blood anyway. So it's not like they're really screaming for what I could be giving them. I'm not a universal donor or anything like that. And anyway, I was thinking, it's annoying, and they're quite confrontational about it, like trying to guilt you into it. Like, no, you do need to do the plasma. You need to sit there for the 45, 50 minutes instead of the 10 or 15 it takes to donate blood. And then you can do it every 2 weeks instead of every 12. And you're thinking, I understand what you guys get out of it, but right now I can't commit to that. Not at the time being, at least. And they're not keen. They want what they don't have. The grass is always greener. And I understand that. I really do. And so I was talking to somebody about it, just kind of, conversationally, like you do, a bit like I'm doing now, I suppose. And they kind of said, you should complain. You should make a proper complaint about it, or rebuke them, tell them, give them more of a piece of your mind. Don't be so nice about it. Be a bit more harsh with them. And that's not my general approach, right? My general approach is, you make friends and influence people by not complaining, criticizing, or condemning, if I'm remembering the book right. And, the idea is you don't go through life complaining and enjoying it at the same time, do you? Like, you can have a bit of a whinge every now and then, especially when there is a situation of injustice. Things that are outside of your control, though, are best not complained about, because if you can't control or affect any change on it, you only really burden yourself emotionally with wanting to try and affect that change through complaining. So if there's a system that is not just, or it's rigged, what good is complaining about it going to do? You'd be better off complaining when there is something that can be done, when you're talking about a system of a smaller scale, one that's more open towards being influenced by an individual player. Or if you've got a bit of reach, right? I don't know, if you're a journalist or something, you shine the light on injustices, big or small, systems that are corrupt regardless of their scale. I'm not a journalist, though. And so me having a whinge isn't going to do a whole lot. So here's how I was challenged. I was asked, what if there was someone in line behind you who was a first-time donor, there to give blood for the first time? And don't get too hung up on like the giving blood stuff. Like this could be applied to any sort of, not even charity related, but just any time that you're trying to do something nice, give someone and then they're trying to push back and ask for B instead. It's a pretty sort of straight analogy. So anyway, what if there was someone behind me who was thinking about giving blood, they're every intention of making some act of charity, let's just call it. And then they saw the way that there was the kerfuffle with me and the person at the counter talking to me, and they thought they didn't really like that. Maybe they're a bit more of an introverted person, and they just thought, oh wow, it's not a very warm welcome that fella got. I'm just going to go elsewhere. I'm not going to donate. I'll abstain. And so the challenge there is, should you, as a moral agent, be giving that feedback because you have the capacity to improve the overall image of the activity, not just from your end of, what you're doing, but in terms of what you're participating in, to share that feedback. It's a bit like Google reviews, I suppose, right? You want to try out a new restaurant, you check to see what the ratings are, I suppose the way it was then, back in them days, you wouldn't really do that, would you? It'd be a little bit more word of mouth, and you'd have, you'd have one restaurant in your whole village, maybe. But here I've got a curry place there, and there, and curries. Sorry about that. The rain's starting to come in, so it's probably a good time to wrap it up anyway. The point that I was working my way towards in a roundabout sort of way is, what if by you making a complaint, putting your feedback out there, you're improving the amount of information available to other decision makers, people who can then act on that information and make a better informed decision. And even from a selfish point of view, that's a good thing, because you want to encounter that information yourself, don't you? You want to make well-informed decisions, presumably. And so you appreciate when there's information out there that you can consume to better inform those decisions. So is not complaining part of putting that information out there? And it doesn't have to be in a, overly critical, uncharitable and hostile manner. You stick to the truth, just present the facts as they are, and you can still be kind about it. The kindest thing you can do is tell the truth, really. A white lie is still a lie, after all. So what did I do? Well, in this situation, I decided this is not a grand injustice. This is probably not pertinent to faith or morals. It's not going to affect the course of somebody's life or change the overall amount of well-being and suffering in the world. It's probably one of those things to abstain from complaining about as an act of sacrifice, right? Just to decrease the amount of negativity in the world. Plus, it's good for you too, if you just accept the way that things are sometimes, so that you don't spend as much time and effort thinking about the way that things could be, which is actually the entire point of this content here. So that's ironic. Plus, I've spent this whole time complaining, I suppose, in a way. But I do think it's thought-provoking. And I guess the question to leave you with would be, when ought you complain? Just when objectively is it a good reason to complain? And then obviously the implication there is to think about what are the times where realistically, pragmatically, and for your own well-being, you just shouldn't, and you should just let it go. That's all for now. Take care.